Hi, my name is Joe Neuerberg. I'm one of the co-founders of Isaac's Dream, and this is my beautiful bride, Robin. We're both very grateful that you're here with us tonight and wanted to carve out a little bit just so you could hear more about our story.
Hello. In the summer of 2016, I took my first medical mission trip I've ever had in my life. I've always dreamed of going to Ghana, West Africa. We were in an area called Yeji on the Lake Volta. We treated over 500 people in 3 days. We worked at different clinics in different areas. But on the last day, we were taken we didn't know where we were going. We walked in mud, we crossed a river in a canoe, we walked for what felt like days in the heat, and we finally ended up in this little village. And it was just, there was just something about it that there was no doubt in my mind that I would be back there someday. We treated so many people in the village. They have no access to any type of medical care out there. So we had, very high fevers, malaria. We had one little girl break her arm, which someone reset it while we were standing out there, which was terrifying, but she took it pretty well. Just lots of high blood pressure, diabetes, those types of things that just go to the wayside because they don't have access unless they cross the river to get to town. To be able to go to the doctor. And there was a group traveling with us of Ghanaians that they were helping us out with translating and trying to talk and trying to get us the things that we needed. And Bernard was kind of in charge of all of us. And he's been just a godsend. He was put in our lives for a reason. So he also introduced us to Isaac, Isaac's had kind of a rough life. He was orphaned at the age of 8. He never met his dad. He was forced to live on the streets and try to provide for himself as an 8-year-old boy, where he was trying to do a man's work to be able to make man's pay. So he went hungry a lot. And he finally ended up into a church, and he was introduced to Bernard, where Bernard took him in as one of his own children, and took care of Isaac and just breathed life into him, and it just left a lasting effect on Isaac. At one point, I did ask Bernard if he ever needed a family to host like a child that was going to school, like a college student that was going to school. And Isaac was eavesdropping, so he, of course, raised his hand and said, "I'd like to go to school in the U.S." So that's kind of how everything got started. And that's where Isaac's Dream came from Isaac.
Well, I don't know if I was at home or if I was at work, but I got a text from Robin that says, "I may or may not have opened our home to an African boy." and I replied, "Well, that doesn't surprise me at all." I mean, it was just that's her heart, and it wasn't a surprise that she would do that. And when she got home, then we started talking more about what that really looked like to get Isaac here. So just what's needed to get him enrolled, but then also how does he get approved for a visa? How do we fund it? We've got 4 kids, so we didn't necessarily want to pay for a 5th. So we looked at, do we start a GoFundMe page? Do we do that? And then thought, well, if we are a 501c3, maybe people would donate more than if it was just GoFundMe. So looked into, okay, well, let's start a 501c3. But then as we were talking, it was, if we're going to go through this, we need to dream bigger. Let's get Isaac here, but let's dream a lot bigger of what we can do.
Well, I didn't want to start a school. We talked about opening an orphanage. You know, everybody loves kids. And we were praying about what to do. And I had had lunch with my mother-in-law, and I was driving home, and like a ton of bricks had hit me to build a school. And I thought, I don't want to build a school. That doesn't sound like fun. Like, that sounds like a lot of work. I don't want to do that. But it was a relentless voice in my head telling me that we needed to build a school.
I could tell for certain that it was something laid heavy on her heart. It wasn't a fly by the night, oh, this sounds cool. It was something that was truly laid on her heart. So we started looking, and okay, if we did that, so let's learn more about the area, about the village, about Yeji, about Lake Volta. And what we had discovered through there is that lake is one of the highest areas in the world for child labor and child slavery. There's kids that will, these slave masters will go to these remote areas, and they'll offer parents, it might be 30, 40, 50 bucks in our money, and say, hey, give us your child, we're gonna take him away, we're gonna get him educated, get him to a better life, and then these kids go away, and then they're put on boats for 12, 14 hours a day. Little kids are scooping water out of, but when I say a fishing boat, it's a wooden canoe. So they're scooping water out of it. The older kids are diving down, trying to untangle nets from trees, and most of them can't swim, so it's not uncommon for those kids to drown. And these kids that are put into these situations, I mean, they're not usually fed well. They're subject to more violence as well for not doing what they're supposed to do. And thought, wow, okay. But what we found out is, if there's a school, if there's education, access to it in the area, it takes that story away. The slave master can't come in and say, well, let me take your child here, because there's a school here to point to. And that's when we're like, okay, this is it.
Well, we had to decide, do these people even want to work with us? Like, we're these crazy, Westerners that come in with all these wild ideas, and do they even want to work with us? So we planned another trip out. We had gone in July, and then in October, a friend of mine, Jill, traveled out there with me. And I still don't know how she did it or why. She probably is asking herself the same thing at many points. But we went back out and sat down with the elders. We had a lot of meetings. We asked them, this is what we're interested in doing. Are you interested in working with us? Do you have questions for us? And they immediately, like, oh, come on, we're gonna show you where we're gonna put it. We've already been trying. We already have bricks, but the government won't help us. So we went to where they wanted the school to be, and we ended up getting pretty close to where they were. But they definitely were excited to work with us. We were told by Bernard, we were actually like scouting locations for a school, and he kept telling us that we wouldn't be able to do it out there because you can only get there by canoe. There's no road to get out there. So how would we get material out there? And I said, well, I'll look at other areas, but I really want to go out to this village and see how I feel. And the feeling didn't change. I mean, the more we were told we couldn't, the more I wanted to. And I just knew this is where the school was supposed to be, and this was where it was needed the most.
We had reached out to a local community college here just to work on getting Isaac accepted. And all the paperwork that goes with that. We talked to other families that had helped international students come here to make sure we had all of our ducks in a row. So we got our package, everything put together, and Isaac was accepted here. And then actually on the trip out there, Robin was able to go with Isaac to his visa interview, but unfortunately it was denied. And without a real reason investigating, it was kind of more if, Isaac doesn't have, he said he was orphaned, he doesn't really have a family, he doesn't own a business, doesn't own land, so there's no tie necessary to bring him back. It's kind of what we were told. So we tried a few other times, and unfortunately he was never able to come here to go to school, but he's got a big passion for photography and videography, and we were able to put him to school over in Ghana though. So he did go to film school over there, and has worked for a local media outlet. Now has kind of started his own business doing a few things as well.
Of course, he was denied and didn't get to come with us. We were all heartbroken, and it just really saddened the trip a lot to find out that he wasn't going to get to come home with us or get to come at some point. But when we were in the village, the big thing was they kept asking, when will you be back and when will this start? And they didn't understand quite how it was going to work. So they just were relentless about asking us when we would be back. I didn't know what to say, and I just blurted out February. I just felt like that was what popped in my head. And then, so what ended up happening was, so we were back in February. On the 18th of February, we broke ground on the school. So we just thought that was pretty amazing that God already knew when the school was to get started.
So we were working on getting our 501c3 approved, and so on December 1st of 2016, we launched a website and we could officially take donations, tax-deductible donations. So we just, I think it might even been that night, but we're sitting watching TV, and all of a sudden Robin just goes, what if no one ever donates? If we've gone through all of this, what if no one donates? And I bet it was 30 seconds.
Yes.
Later, I get a notification on my phone that we received our very first donation to Isaac Stream. And it was someone that Robin had been to Haiti a couple times, and it was someone who lives in Canada. She had met on a flight from Haiti back to the States. So that one encounter, they kind of became friends, and she was actually the first person to ever donate to Isaac Stream. Well, it was a lot of just anybody who would listen to us. I think Robin called them Tupperware parties, almost like you just invite some people over to your home, let us come and talk to you. So we went to
several little churches.
Yeah, people's homes, our home, just basically anyone who would listen to what we were trying to do. And so but just through those efforts, we were able to get enough, at least to go break ground on the school.
It was like something out of a dream. I felt like I was so blessed that my daughter Emma was able to go with us. All the praying and the thinking and the being told we couldn't do it, and then to actually be there and all of the ceremonial, everything that went on when we dug that first little bit of dirt out. Everybody said, I knew you were going to cry. I was just, while everybody was praying and trying to get through it, but it was unbelievable. Over a couple of trips, I got really close to Chief Simone, who was the grand chief over the village, and we like to be able to kid around with each other, and whenever I brought games and things, he was always all about playing the games with us. I believe we got to play hopscotch with us, which is just a riot if you knew how this gentleman's not 20 years old. But one day when we were talking, he had someone tell me that he was grateful that we came back, because there had been other officials and things in the government who had promised them that they would build them a school, and nobody ever came back and did anything. And he was so reassured when I'm like a bad penny, I'm going to keep showing up. So when I just kept coming and coming, he said it was just reassuring to him because we actually came back.
Yeah, so it was really cool just to hear her and Emma talk about just everything that they'd seen, and there's another couple that went with them and took a bunch of pictures and did some videos, so just really captured a lot of it. So even though I'd never been there, I felt like I had been there just from everything that Robin would tell me and things that we had seen. So I was really excited as we started talking that I was going to be able to make my first trip out there, and would have been, June of 17. Would have been the next time, and so we'd get a chance to, because we've been getting pictures from the contractor of here's what it looks like, because she was there for the groundbreaking, but to see pictures of the bricks that they had to, because they, like Robin said, they had to take bags of cement, cart them across in the canoe, and then hand make the bricks there. So to see those pictures there,
Every single brick in that building was made by hand.
and just to see it slowly but sorry stacking up, and then so to get out there and just, and at this point Isaac was one of the family. I mean, we FaceTimed him all the time at holidays. I mean, our parents were his grandparents and our kids were his brothers, and so, I mean, our whole family just embraced him. So to get a chance to meet him in person was really exciting too.
I was excited for Joe to finally go because this is all I talked about, and I ate, slept, everything was about Ghana. And I was just really excited to share this with him because we had only been married for 6 months when I went on this trip. And then I come home saying, I'm gonna bring an African boy home and we're gonna build a school. And he just went right along with it. So I was so excited that I was able to share that with him. He could see it. It was fun to watch him see everything through his eyes.
I was kind of done with the paperwork, all the 501c3 stuff. Let's go have some fun and see everything.
Yes.
Getting there was just surreal, just because of seeing pictures and videos, and then some of the kids that she already knew by name. I'm like, oh, that's Angela. Oh, that's that's Xavier. That's just so knowing who these kids were. But I guess I was really taken back by, not just at the village, but in Ghana in general too, just how hospitable everyone is. I mean, we walk up and then there's, no, you sit over here. There's certain chairs for us to sit in, and it's, and it just and it's genuine. It's not fake. It's not forced. It's just genuinely happy and hospitable. Robin has said this before too. When you do things like this, it is a tough area and tough things that happen, but you can't portray it as this picture of constant doom and gloom, because there's a lot of joy out there. And actually, I think we learned from them, I think, a little bit too, more than just here we're helping with the school. But I mean, it's just there's the simple joy that a lot of them have is something we could definitely learn from.
The canoe ride on the way back, everybody there knows that on the last day that I'm going to cry all the way across the lake, because I'm so sad to be leaving everybody. So they usually nobody talks on the way back on the last day, because I'm just so sad and knowing that I'm leaving. But I'm also thinking about being excited about coming back. But that trip across the lake is something I can see anytime I close my eyes. It's amazing. Well, when we were there and got to see the construction, I actually got to climb up on top and put a couple of nails into the roof.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty sure they undid it when I walked away, but I felt like I had helped build that school.
That's
I was
right.
so excited, and they, of course, got a big kick out of it. But once the school was done, we were ready to open, but we didn't have the funding to open the school yet. So it sat vacant for, not vacant, we used it for other things, and they used it for church and other meetings out there. There's no other building like this anywhere on the lake. So they're very proud of it, but we just weren't able to open it yet.
Well, we decided to put on our first fundraising dinner. We'd been to a few, and actually the group that Robin went on that very first trip with, we stole a bunch of stuff out of his playbook and said, hey, do you care if we kind of model off yours? And
Everybody needs a Brad Gottney in their life.
He's been a champion for us the whole time and has just been a phenomenal resource for us. So I'm a planner, and I like to have things laid out. Robin flies by the seat of her pants, and usually her flying by the seat of her pants is a lot better than me planning, but that's just kind of how we are. But so we had this cool barn venue that we were having our first dinner at. I think we could have about 80 or so people in there. So I'm up there all night setting up. Okay, we got because he had to borrow different equipment to get everything piecemeal together, and I'm going through the audio and the video and the slideshow. I don't know how many times, like, okay, we're set. First night, first dinner. We get going, the audio, the slide thing, it doesn't turn on. So we had to wait for it to reboot and to warm up, and then at some point the sound quit. So we had to figure out that, and so we moved stuff to the other side of the room, and it was just like,
we thought we looked like idiots, but people said it looked like it made us seem more sincere.
Yeah, we're very authentic, because if you're going through all this stuff to But it's very memorable now. At the time, it was like, okay, everybody just leave. I don't want to talk to anybody after this. But it was great, and actually it was a good night, and it was enough there that we could start. As Robin said, we had the building, but now we had to put in desks and chairs and materials and hire teachers. And because of where we're located, we need a place for the teachers, some of them to live during the week because it's just too far of a commute to go back and forth across the lake. But we got there. We got moving.
The next trip we were able to take 3 of our children with us. And they all had a responsibility. They were in charge of a Bible story or something for each day. And one of the days, the kids told the story about how Jesus had washed the disciples' feet. So we took everyone down to the water's edge, the adults, the kids, and everybody got lined up. And at first they were just like, what are these people doing? They probably thought we were insane. But as we started washing their feet and they were telling the story, it got really quiet. And then another gentleman was on our trip, started singing some hymns, and it was something that watching our kids wash these children's feet, whether they were Muslim children or Christian children, it was unbelievable. And that's a moment in my life I will not forget.
You could just feel God smiling down on that moment. We had learned actually when we were out there for the construction that, as Rob mentioned, they don't have access to medical care out there. So they'd started another building for medical, but we said, well, let's get the school done first, one building at a time. And so what we decided was we had enough to finish off the roof on the medical building, and we could convert that into teacher housing so we could get the school started. So we thought, okay, that makes more sense just to keep us moving. We'll do that. So now we had the housing, and now we had a school and materials, and Robin went out to start interviewing headmasters.
We had a friend in common who lived there, and was very well educated, so we ended up hiring our headmaster. He worked for us for about 1.5 years and did a great job getting everything up and going. And now Mr. Mensah is running the school now, and he is just amazing. The people in the village love him. He speaks their language. He is down to earth, and he's doing a wonderful job.
And then what was interesting too is we were waiting, because I guess we both would have been back home, but when registration started, there was like, what's this going to look like? Because we really had no idea. So we get word that 62 kids had registered for school. We thought,
we were like, whoa!
This is perfect because
we were super excited.
Yeah, we can break our teeth on this. We can kind of get some some procedural things going and in place, and then first day of school, we get a message, oh, well, 92 kids showed up to the first day of school. And then pretty soon it's like, oh, now we're at 105. Oh, now we're at 100.
Now we're sweating.
So the kids just kind of kept coming. So we had to start hiring more teachers and doing more things. But it grew pretty darn.
A total of 5 villages send their students to the school to go to class. In October of 2018 is when we had the grand opening for the school, and our headmaster had put together, people were coming from like 8 hours away. They were traveling to come and see this.
We thought it'd be like a little.
Yes, maybe just a couple of chairs and some balloons or something, but we had no idea that there would be so many well-respected and well-known chiefs that would travel to come to the event. And Nana Frediwa, who is the landowner, actually traveled for the event. And there were tents and chairs and people, like there were over 1,000 people that came. And we were just blown away because we weren't given any information about what we were going to be doing. And we had no idea how much of a part that we were going to play.
Sure, the headmaster was like, oh, by the way, Joe, I need you to welcome everybody and give a little speech. And then after that, Robin, you need to come up and talk about this, this, and this. And we're like, oh, okay, here we go. I guess the other thing that really surprised me is, the villagers and people from surrounding areas, they got into their tribal
Sunday
clothing,
best.
their Sunday best, the tribal clothing, you know, the paint and everything, yeah, and just I'll never forget the sound of the drums. Just when the drums start going to come, and then they're dancing in their tribal dance on the way up to the thing, and it was just like this.
They were so full of joy.
Yeah, it was just probably one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. It was pure joy, and they were excited about it. It was very respectful to the school, and we thought we're showing up for like a half-hour thing of cut the ribbon, and here we go.
We
and,
should have known better in Ghana.
Yeah. So yeah, we sat there and watched all that, and it was amazing. And then, so when we get through all the speeches, because a couple of the chiefs spoke, and different people from public education, private education, I mean, there was probably 10 plus people that spoke. And so there's finally time for the ribbon cutting ceremony. So we have to walk across from where we're sitting, I don't know how far that is across there, 70, 80 yards, whatever it is, to get to the school. You know, we've got so many pictures and so many videos. I remember actually reaching for my phone thinking I want a video of me walking up, and I thought, you know, we have so many pictures and so many things. I'm just gonna, you know what, I'm just gonna soak this in. Hopefully there'll be a different video somewhere, but I wanted to soak in that walk from those chairs and then up to the flagpoles they'd put up there, one for a Ghanaian flag and an American flag. So we walked up there, and Robin rose the Ghanaian flag, and I put up the American flag, which is something that my dad gave us to have out there. And I think that was a huge.
I cried through the whole thing.
Then we did the ribbon cutting, and then we walked into the school, and then all the dancing starts again, and the music, and then people are just pulling us from everywhere. Wanting us in different pictures,
And people were still dancing and playing music, and because they were so excited and so appreciative of the building and that there was a future and a plan now.
And that was probably the latest we've ever stayed on a village trip into the evening, because it was like, if we wait too much longer, we're not going to be able to find our way across the lake. we got to get going. But
it was hard to leave,
yeah.
Very hard to leave that day.
Yeah, so after we had the grand opening of the school and got back from that trip, we rolled out a child sponsorship program, which is really more of, for $50 a month, you sponsor a child, and it helps cover, you know, some of their costs, but also helps, keeps the school going, keeps school supplies, repair items,
medical
overhead,
needs.
medical needs, just whatever the case may be. And it's actually really become the lifeblood for Isaac Extreme, because those child sponsorship dollars is really what keeps the school going. And what we have done too, though, is before we go on a trip, we'll send out a note to those sponsors ahead of time saying, okay, by X date, send us a picture of your family, give us a note to give to your child. And then when we go out there, we'll actually give them the picture and tell them a little bit about it, and through an interpreter that will have the letter read to them, and then have them write some sort of card or draw a picture so we can come back and give it to the sponsor. So it's not just
It's very precious. The best
Yeah.
part about when they draw the pictures is that the cards will always be so dirty
That's right.
because it's so dirty there. So we're like, that is real African dirt. Like they really do that picture themselves.
So it's just create some, more of a connection. And like at the end of last school year, we had a school report put together where the kids had a little bit about themselves and what they're doing in school, and then that we could give it to the sponsor as well, so you can get an idea of how your kid's progressing in school.
In January of 2019, I was able to head out to Ghana and stay for 3 weeks. So that was the longest I'd ever gotten to stay. I traveled by myself, and I had, the reason I was going, I had just been, but one of our students, Wisdom, had been bitten by a poisonous snake in December. And unfortunately, besides help that we gave financially and getting him to the doctor, he lost his life because of a snake bite. So I wanted to be able to be there for the family. I wanted to be there with the children for the funeral. So I traveled out. That was something I won't ever forget. I've never heard anyone mourn like Wisdom's mother mourned for him. And to hear the children mourn, he was such a good student, and everybody loved him, and he was very helpful. And I was glad I was there, but I hope I don't ever have to do that for one of our students again. During the trip, I did get to stay in the village for, I think it was 3 or 4 nights. And Joe was very nervous about me going out there and staying. I wasn't nervous at all. Pitch black at night, no electricity. I was going to stay in the teacher's quarters. It'd be fine.
I told the headmaster, you're with her at all times. You lock the door, sleep out in front of her door. It's fine out there, but it was something new.
Well, I'm the only white person that's ever been able to stay anybody outside has ever stayed in that village. So they wanted to make sure that I was safe. But the first night I was there, Chief Simone brought me this huge flashlight that he wanted me to keep with him. And he had brought his entourage with him to tell me what he was saying. But he ended up telling me, of all the things I was worried about, this was not one of them, but he said, don't worry, no one will stab you. And I'm thinking, okay, that wasn't one of the things I was super worried about.
Is that an option? Yeah.
I'm like, okay, thank you. And I started laughing, and he said, why is she laughing? And he didn't understand that was not a fear of mine. But I was able to stay 3 nights. It was just something out of a book to be able to wake up every morning and watch all these kids walk to school and get to greet them in the morning, and it was beautiful. And to hear the drums when I was sleeping at night, and to get to hear the drums and the communication and the laughter at nighttime amongst the mice I heard walking around in my room. And I thought they were giant rats because there actually were goats outside my window walking around on dry leaves. What I thought it was mice in my room. But that's a whole other story for another day. But it was definitely something I will never forget. And I was so thankful that I was able to get to stay for that long. And I definitely would go out and stay out there again. When talking about the medical clinic that we started, that we need so bad, this was a prime example when we lost Wisdom. Poisonous snake bites are very common out there. And one, you have to remember that depending on the season, whether it's rainy season or dry season, how long it takes to get across the lake. But Wisdom didn't have the knowledge. He got on his bicycle and rode to his parents. So of course that just pumped the venom even faster through his veins. That's why we're pushing so hard that we need this medical clinic. They don't keep anti-venom in Yedji. We had to send him, he had to travel quite a ways to be able to get any anti-venom at all. Another problem that we face all the time is malaria. Of course, we take medication to keep us from getting malaria, but getting it there is just common for them. So that's something with the medical clinic that we need so badly, is to be able to keep the testing kits and the medication that they need to be able to get through, because it's so common and prevalent for them to get malaria.
So then again in October of 19, we made another trip out there just to kind of see how everything was going. And the school just continues to grow and grow and grow. And Mr. Mensah, we were bringing him on as well, so wanted to spend some time with him. And a couple of really cool stories. When we first started, Robin had learned of a young boy whose family, they're in fishing, being on the lake. They made him get up at midnight, go out on the lake for 2-3 hours, set nets, come back home for a little bit, get up again in the morning, go bring those nets in. And that was just to help out the family. But he wanted to go to school, and the parents were not happy. So they would not feed him breakfast if he chose to go to school. And so he was coming to our school, just starving already. And we had added, about a year, not even a year after the school had started, we added I guess they call it a canteen out there, but a large area for the kids where they can sit and eat lunch now in a separate area, added bathrooms and some other things out there. So fast forward to this trip in October of 19, we're meeting with the PTA, which we had them assemble with the elders and some of the parents, because we wanted them to be part of solutions as well. I mean,
we did not want to build an American school in Ghana. We wanted it to be a Ghanaian school with their input.
And they needed, and if there was issues there, and they're there on the ground, they needed to be part of solutions too, and have a vested interest in there. So Fast forward to this trip, and they had made a decision now that all children will sleep at night during this. They're not going to be out working. That no kid will be doing that within their families. So it took what, a year or so for that to kind of catch on. And we had learned that actually when you do things like this, kids will actually start teaching the parents, whether it's education, medical, other things. But as the kids are getting knowledge, they start sharing it with their family. So then not only that, then they brought to our attention that there's kids in other villages that want to go to school there, but it's just too far to go day in, day out.
Not safe.
Not safe. So they just said, would you guys build a building here for these kids to stay during the week? We'll take care of them. We'll feed them. We'll make sure that they get to school, they get their homework done. But this way they can come and they can be part of our school. So going from parents not wanting their kids to go to help the family to, wow, this is what we've got, we want to share it. Can you help us do that? Was just, I mean, we were just blown away by that whole conversation. So the other thing we wanted to go check on is there's another village called John Cope that's about a 20-minute boat ride from where we're at. We had opened a satellite school there, again, just from a need in that community as well. And that's probably 40, 50 kids, I think, that are there now. So that we know of. So all told, we're at 225, 250 students all in right now. So, but with this, and now with the medical clinic, but in order to finish that building, we have to give the teachers housing. So we wanted to do it the right way, to have it more of a proper home versus converting what we did. So as of right now, we're in the process of finishing 2 buildings for the teachers. So there will be 6, 7 units in there. Where there'd be a place for them to stay throughout the week. There is a few teachers that they're close enough they can go home, but there's somebody out there. So when we wrap that up, that now officially they can move, gets that building empty, and then we can jump into the medical clinic. So the teacher housing and the new student housing should be done here in the very near future, and then we need to dive into the medical building.
We felt like there was a need to talk about and just give out some feminine products. Our girls are using leaves, packed mud, things like that for their menstrual periods instead of having proper hygiene kits. So we had someone come with us from Days for Girls, and he did an amazing presentation, and we handed out bags full of underwear, soap, and washable pads, and we explained how to use them, and that they could use them over and over again. They should last them over 2 or 3 years is what we were told if they would wash them out. This also keeps the girls in school, because when they're having their period and they can't take care of themselves, they stay home. So now they have ways to wash and clean up, and so that keeps our girls in school too. So we were very thankful for that. We also gave them out at John Cope, and it was very good to have that open conversation with them about questions they had, and just the laughter and them waving their pads around in the air was great. But it was really good to have a personal conversation with the ladies. So I felt really good about that while we were there.
All right, so what's next for us is wrapping up the teacher housing and the student housing, and then really fundraising to get that medical clinic open and going. With everything going on in the world, the school is closed right now. All of the schools in Ghana are closed at this moment, but we're have word that it looks fairly certain that everyone will open back up in September. So we're looking forward to welcoming our kids back in September, have the school open, teachers in their new housing, welcoming students from another village to join us at Prosperity Academy, which is the name of our school, and
very excited
yeah.
for the future. The future looks very bright.